Fans of pro wrestling games may be in for a quiet 2020 because rumors are circulating that WWE 2K21 has been canceled. And a big bombshell was released this morning. A Resident Evil 4 remake has been leaked as coming out in 2022, and there's some interesting things to discuss with this. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. Happy Easter if you celebrate Easter. Hope everyone is doing good. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games in a video that has nothing to do with the Nintendo Switch. So WWE 2K20 was, well, it was a horrible game. It was boring, it was plotting, it was glitchy. The story mode was absolutely horrible. It was written by a group of teenagers, it felt like, and the game overall just wasn't a fun wrestling game. I picked this game up the day it came out just because I wanted to see what was happening with the WWE games, because I am a huge fan of wrestling and I love wrestling video games ever since I was playing WWF Royal Rumble on the Sega Genesis or even WrestleMania on the NES. Sure, they weren't great games, but they were sort of products of the times. But the WWE 2K series has definitely been on a steady decline as of late. You have to remember the atrocious WWE 2K18 on the Nintendo Switch. The game hardly ran. And recently, I actually re-downloaded WWE 2K20 on my Xbox One because I saw some people doing some cool mods with the game, such as custom characters and custom arenas, and I wanted some fun AEW stuff. I ended up downloading a bunch of AEW stuff. Half of the stuff didn't even work, and when I rebooted my Xbox One, all of my downloads were gone. And since there is a limit on how many things you can download within 24 hours, I just quickly deleted the game again. But it seems like the next entry in this yearly franchise, WWE 2K21, has been canceled. Now, this is coming to us from someone named Justin Leeper, who was a writer on some WWE games in the past, and he basically informed everyone that WWE 2K21 is not happening according to sources that he has been talking to within the WWE 2K games, but there is another WWE style game coming out in this year to sort of supplement that. Now, why is the reason for this game not coming out? Obviously, this is a cash cow for 2K. It is a game that we see every freaking year, unfortunately, but it seems like the reasoning behind it is because of internal problems and also some real world issues that are happening. So really what's going on with this is it seems like there are some internal development issues with the WWE 2K game as far as the engine is concerned. And one thing that you have to sort of realize is that whenever WrestleMania season comes around, you usually get a reveal of the upcoming WWE 2K game for that year. And unfortunately, we did not get any sort of reveal for this. Another thing you have to keep in mind is the fact that all of these wrestlers have to be motion captured in order to have their real likenesses and their real moves in the game. Obviously, the WWE roster has changed over the past few years. Wrestlers have left, more wrestlers have come in, so you need to get new motion captures for all of these wrestlers. But of course, because of real world events that are happening right now, many wrestlers are in a state of lockdown, so they're not even able to travel, and that's why you're not seeing them on WWE television. So if the wrestlers are unable to be motion capturing things in April, how are you going to have a fall release for WWE 2K21? So it seems like it's sort of accumulation of the fact that the series has just gone downhill, WWE 2K20 was critically panned, and the fact that real world events are transpiring right now that are not allowing wrestlers to travel. Honestly though, I say it is good that this game is taking a year off if these rumors are true, because WWE 2K20 was just so bad. WWE games have just been in a steady decline for the past few years, and the engine that they're using, everything that is about the WWE game is just not fun anymore. These games are no longer fun. I remember the classic N64 games. I remember a time when the GameCube had its own wrestling games, the Xbox had its own wrestling games, and the PlayStation 2 had its own wrestling games. There were many different companies making all of these awesome wrestling games that really catered to all sorts of wrestling fans, but now you just have one company making the WWE games every year, and the quality is just no longer there anymore. So if WWE 2K21 is taking the year off like these rumors are suggesting, I am definitely all for this. They need to sort of revamp this. They need to go back to the ground level with the WWE 2K franchise and just rebuild something absolutely new, because what they're doing and what they have been doing the past few years just isn't working out anymore. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of WWE 2K21 potentially being canceled, because I honestly can see a sort of light at the end of the tunnel with this. I think this is going to be a good thing for the franchise because it needs a reboot. It needs to go in a different direction, and now is the perfect time to do something like this. And next up, Resident Evil has been a very hot topic over the past few years. Of course, Resident Evil 7 really transformed how Resident Evil games were perceived. We last year got Resident Evil 2 Remake, and then this year we got Resident Evil 3 Remake. And Resident Evil 2's remake was an absolute masterpiece. It was one of my favorite games of the year of 2019. That and Devil May Cry 5 were definitely two of the best games that I played on the Xbox One in 2019, and just absolutely fantastic experiences. Resident Evil 3 I felt was a very solid game as well, a very solid entry, but I just felt it was a bit too short and there were some questionable design decisions within Resident Evil 3. I think they could have done more to sort of flesh out the Resident Evil 3 universe as far as the story is concerned. They probably didn't need to remove areas because that game was kind of short to begin with, and the Resident Evil Resistance online portion of the game was just not very good, I felt. But a few days ago on the channel, we talked about Resident Evil 8, which is potentially coming in 2021 and is known as Resident Evil Village. Now, in case you missed out on that information, basically Chris Redfield is being redesigned for this game and looks like he will be playing a prominent role in this game. More than likely, you will be playing as Chris Redfield. The game is taking place in a European village. There's a new character called a witch, which is basically your sort of stalker character like Mr. X or Nemesis. And one of the things that's interesting is that this game is allegedly taking place in a first-person perspective, which of course was introduced in Resident Evil 7. Now, I think the first-person perspective works really well. I actually really enjoyed Resident Evil 7. I've been playing through it again lately, and it's just a fantastic game. So I am all for this Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village game, as it is being called. But of course, people were wondering, well, are there going to be any more Resident Evil remakes coming out anytime soon? Resident Evil 1 was of course redone on the GameCube, and it was a really fantastic game, and Resident Evil 2 and 3 have been done on modern platforms. So you would think that the next game in the storyline would be Resident Evil Code Veronica. The first 4 Resident Evil games, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and Code Veronica, all use that same sort of tank control system, which is just absolutely dated, and it could use a refresher as far as getting into some better gameplay. And I think Resident Evil Code Veronica is admittedly one of the most underrated games of all time, especially in the Resident Evil franchise. But it seems like Capcom is skipping over Resident Evil Code Veronica in order to do a remake of Resident Evil 4. Now, this information is coming to us from Video Game Chronicles, who also leaked the Super Mario 30th Anniversary Collection plans for the Nintendo Switch, talking about all of those Mario games releasing on the Nintendo Switch, with some of them getting remasters. And it seems like Resident Evil 4 is skipping Code Veronica. Now, the game is actually being worked on by a new company called M2, which is not to be confused with the Sega Port Company. It is another M2. It's actually M-TWO, not M-2. And this company is comprised of ex-Capcom and Platinum members, and the game has actually been given the blessing by the original game director Shinji Mikami. Now, no real details have been given about what is going to happen in this Resident Evil 4 remake, but honestly, I'm kind of questioning Capcom on this, because when you look at the original Resident Evil games, they were definitely a product of the times. And like I said, those tank controls, that sort of stiff combat, that basic storytelling that was in the PS1 games, and even in Code Veronica to some extent, those games could really use an update. And Resident Evil 4, though, was a completely different game that was more based on action, and still utilizes a more modern control scheme that honestly still feels really good today. There is a reason why this game has re-released on pretty much every platform since the original inception of the game in 2005. They just put an HD coat of paint on it, clean up some of the textures, but the gameplay itself is still very refined. It's not something that needed an update like Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil Code Veronica needs. I think Code Veronica would have been a much better choice for the next game in the Resident Evil franchise to be remastered. And you also have to look at Capcom just as a company right now. Are they starting to milk the Resident Evil franchise a bit too much? Obviously, with the success of things like Resident Evil 7, which really brought Capcom back into the limelight of video game development companies, and Resident Evil 2, now it seems like all they're thinking about is Resident Evil. What about a game like Dino Crisis on the PS1? Dino Crisis was an absolutely fantastic game. I loved how the Raptors were so smart and how they would come and attack you, and that game would really benefit from getting something like a new remastered edition of it in the style of Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3. And even the aforementioned Code Veronica, like, I'm still going to talk about Code Veronica because I absolutely love that game, and it's a shame that it's not getting the respect that the other Resident Evil games are getting. That game is still canon. That game still has important lineage in the Resident Evil franchise, and that game was a lot of fun. So honestly, I'm kind of confused as to why Resident Evil 4 is the next game that Capcom is going to remake, but maybe there is a demand for it. Maybe people want to play a more modernized version of this game, even though the game still feels very modern in 2020. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this. Are you looking forward to this potential Resident Evil 4 remake, or do you think they should have done a different game? Alright folks, and that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yes, I know there was no Nintendo Switch stuff in this video, so I'll probably get like 6 views on it, but hey, I do like to talk about multi-platform stuff. I do like to talk about stuff on other platforms, and these 2 stories were just very interesting to me. So be sure to let me know in the comments section down below what you think of everything. Do you think that WWE 2K21 is going to get canceled this year? And do you think that that is a good thing if it ends up being canceled? Because honestly, I definitely do. And what do you think about the Resident Evil 4 remake rumors? Is this the next game you want to see from Capcom get remastered, or would you rather have seen Code Veronica, or even Dino Crisis, or even all the other Capcom games that seem to be stuck on the PS1? And as always guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. Like I said earlier, if you celebrate Easter, have a very happy Easter. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.